guys, during this video I'm going to be teaching one of the 7 comprehension strategies, questioning. First I'm going to go over all 7, which is metacognition, using schema, inferring, questioning, determining importance, visualizing, and synthesizing. I picked questioning because I feel like as you go through a book, normally you would question things, you would make references, you would question, like, who's this? And you always ask yourself questions as you go through. So, to me, and I talked to my teacher, and she's actually going through the author's purpose, which is right here. They're learning the PI. P standing for persuade. Does the book persuade you? I for inform, and E for entertain you. So after each time they read a book, they check to see if it's one of the 3. So she said that questioning is a big thing for her, and even as today, as I was watching one of her lessons, she did question a lot of the information. But it's always good to ask questions before, during, and after you read. Questions keep you intrigued and eager to learn and eager to keep going. As you will see throughout as I read, there's 4 different kinds of questions, and I have those posted right here, which would be a poster on my wall in my classroom. Right there questions, which is questions found right in the text, usually one word response. The example that was used was, who is the frog's friend? The answer is Toad. You see it, it's obvious in the book. Another question is think and search. Questions based on recalling the facts. So one of the questions would be, why was Frog sad? Well, you would recall things that happened in the book because he was leaving, or his friend was leaving. Author and you, questions that require students to use what they already know with what they have learned from reading the text, and they understand the text and relate it to their knowledge before answering the question. So one of those is how do you think Frog felt when he found Toad? I think Frog felt happy because he had not seen Toad in a long time. And you relate it to something that happened to you when you feel happy when you find a friend or you see a friend you haven't seen in a long time. The last one is on your own. Questions answered based on the student's prior knowledge and experiences. It may not be helpful to answering these type of questions. That is, how would you feel if you had a best friend move away? So you don't really find the answer to that in the book that you're reading. You find it in your head, your experiences that you've had prior. You would feel sad if your friend was moving. But as I read through, I will go through some of the questions that you would ask. The book I picked was Abuela. And by the way, Dolly Parton reading service is amazing. My little girl gets books all the time. Okay. Abuela takes me on the bus. We go all around the city. Abuela is my grandma. She is my mother's mother. Abuela means grandma in Spanish. Abuela speaks mostly Spanish because that's what people spoke where she grew up before she came to this country. Abuela and I are always going places. Right here you could say, do you all ever go places with your grandma? That's bringing past experiences, personal experiences with the students to life. You could also say, to find the answer in the text, which would go with right there question, you could say, who is Abuela? Abuela is the grandma, which we just read. Today we are going to the park. El parque es lindo, says Abuela. I know what she means. I think the park is beautiful too. Right here, you would say, does anybody else know what Spanish is? Um, you could say, uh, have you ever heard anybody speak Spanish? Tantos pajaros, Abuela says, as a flock of birds surround us. So many birds. They're picking up the bread we brought. What if they picked me up and carried me high above the park? What if I could fly? Abuela would wonder where I was. Swooping like a bird, I'd call to her. Here you would say, has anybody ever thought about if they could fly? Has anybody ever imagined flying, what it would be like? Not an airplane. Then she'd see me flying. Rosalba the bird, Rosalba el pájaro, she'd say. Then, Abuela, come, Abuela, I'd say. Si, quiero volar. Abuela would reply as she leaped into the sky with her skirt flapping in the wind. And here we would go back to the author's purpose. You could say, do you think that they're trying to persuade you of something, inform you of something, or entertain? And of course, most students would say entertain because they know that you can't really fly. We would fly all over the city. Mira, Abuela would say, pointing, and I'd look as we soared over parks and streets, dogs and people. We'd wave to the people waving for the bus. Buenos dias, we'd say. Buenos dias. Good morning, they'd call upon us. We'd fly over factories and trains and glide close to the sea. Cerca del mar, we'd say. We'd almost touch the tops of the waves. Abuela's skirt would be a sail. She could race with the sailboats. I bet she'd win. We'd fly to where the ships are docked and watch people unload fruits from the land of Abuela grew up. Mangoes, bananas, and papayas, those are all Spanish words. So are rodeo, patio, and burro. Maybe we'd see a cousin of Abuela's hooking boxes of a fruit to a crane. We saw her cousin Daniel once unloading and loading the ships. Here you could talk about how you get your fruit from different countries around the world. You could think and search. You could say how she probably felt when she seen her cousin Daniel. You could say what words are Spanish words, and then they could search the book over and find rodeo, patio, and burro. Out past the boats in the harbor, we'd see the Statue of Liberty. Me gusta, Abuela would say. Abuela really likes her. I do too. We would circle around the Liberty's head and wave to the people visiting her. That would remind Abuela of when she first came to this country. Right here, you could talk about the Statue of Liberty and how a lot of people go visit and see if anybody's ever been there to New York City. Vamos, out of Puerto, she'd say. She'd take me to the airport where the plane that first brought her landed. Cuidado, Abuela would tell me. We have to be careful as we went for a short ride. And then you could ask, the students if they'd ever been on an airplane and what it felt like to be so far above the land. When we could fly to Tio Pablo's and Tia Elsa's store. Pablo is my uncle, my Tio, and Elisa is my aunt, my Tia. They'd be surprised when we flew in, but they'd offer us a cool limonada. Flying is hot work. Pero quiero volar más, Abuela would say. She wants to fly more. I want to fly more too. We could fly to las nubes, the clouds. One looks like a cat, un gato. One looks like a bear, un oso. One looks like a chair, un silla. Descansemos un momento, Abuela would say. She wants to rest a minute. We would rest in our chair, and Abuela would hold me in her arms with the whole sky our house, nuestra casa. Here you could say, has anybody ever looked up at the sky and made things with the clouds, like most of us do, even I do as an adult? Would be as high as airplanes, balloons, and birds, and higher than the tall buildings downtown. but we'd fly there too to look around. We could find the building where my father works. Hola, Papa, as I would say as I waved, and Abuela would do a flip for fun as we passed by the windows. Mira, I hear Abuela say. Look, she's telling me. I do look, and we are back at the park. We are walking by the lake. Abuela probably wants to go for a boat ride. Vamos, a ultra aventura, she says. She wants us to go for another adventure. That's just one of the things I love about Abuela. She likes adventures. Abuela takes my hand. Vamos, she says, let's go. Okay. By the way, I love this book. I think about, as I got finished with it, I thought about, it automatically took me to all the times that I went with my grandma places and done things with her. It's always good to go through and get your students' minds thinking by asking questions. I seen a sign just like this by the reading table today, and it said, ask questions, who, what, when, where, and how. She said, my teacher told me that she always asks the students who's in the story, what is the story about, when the story takes place, where the story is, and how things happen in the story. Do we relate things to our personal life and things like that? Another important thing to remember about questioning is everything we read. Reading is part of everything that we do in life. So we have to start out our kids young by wanting to learn to read and loving to read and knowing the comprehension behind it, because you can't just read something and not know what it means. Even if it means, there's times that I read something and I have to reread it and reread it and reread it because I don't understand it. So always let the students know that questions are very important to ask, and never be ashamed to ask questions. And that's it. Thank you.